Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this special legal compliance session that we are running this afternoon. My name is Nihal Semra. I'm the General Counsel and Legal Director of the law firm Kaizen Synergy. Today's session is a fairly direct and succinct session. It really focuses on the COVID-19 permits for permitted workers documentation and also support information that you may need to be completing for certain staff within your agency. What we've found is that there's a lot of questions being asked by CEOs and HR managers. So I actually specifically requested that this session be held to actually give you the key parts that you need to know and should be across. Equally, we are going to open up the phone lines at the end of the session and more than happy to stay on the line and answer each and every question that is asked today. With it, we are just going to go through the short slides. Obviously, this information has been taken directly from the department's website as well too, but as we'll see, there's parts of this in the application of the documentation and requests for permitted workers registrations and forms. It's that part of it that a lot of agencies are having questions on, and we've certainly fielded those in the last 24 hours as well too. So let's just cover these off. As always, we'd like to pay our respects to the elders past and present upon the lands on which we all meet. While this session is being run by webinar, we are recording it all the way up to the Q&A session, and then we'll circulate it out to all agencies as well. So today's agenda that we're looking at is around the COVID-19 permitted workers. We're going to look briefly at the laws and rules that have just been made. We're going to look at what the employer obligations are, going to look at what the employee obligations are. We're also going to just flag, while this isn't required by the department, and I specify this, the use of support letters as well too, and why we're recommending that agencies take the time to give key staff those to use as well too, and I'll show you what one looks like. Also, as part of that, what we are looking at is the role of admin staff, whether they can be classified as essential workers, and some examples around that, but also looking at whether, if you don't have printers or staff don't have printers at home and you're sending these documents out to them, whether they can actually take photos of it and use it on mobile phones as well too, but also what services that are not listed in the document, but your agency provides essential services. So, for example, payroll and the likes. So we're just going to work through some of these also commonly asked questions that we've seen in the last 24 hours as well. So firstly, from 11:59 p.m. Wednesday, the 5th of August this week, workplaces in Melbourne must be closed unless the workplace is part of a permitted activity or all employees are working from home. From 11:59 on Wednesday, the 5th of August, employers that require their staff to attend a work site must issue a work permit to their employees. This is the employer's responsibility, and this is taken directly from the department's site, the Victorian Department of Department of Health and Human Services site. Now, with it, there is also some discussion about what a work site is. And I'll just cover this off, there has been clear discussions where some agencies might actually provide outreach services, for example, in the disability services sector, in the housing sector, in the family support and counselling services, where people may actually need to go to a client's home, or also, for example, prisons and the likes, as just examples of a wide range of work sites that staff may need to go to. So as part of that, when you are defining the work site on your permitted workers form, it's important to also look at how you're specifying what that site is as well too. And with the stage 4 restrictions, the other document that I will be circulating around to you is this document here as well too, which is the this document here. This is the stage 4 restrictions document that also breaks down, which many of you would have seen, the sector, whether the agency in the category is closed for on-site service, or what it actually means to be open for on-site work based on the COVID plan, and what the restricted activities actually are. And a lot of these actually are divided down. Sometimes it's pretty clear in these spaces. There are some where it's not as clear as well too, as expected. And this is no criticism of the department in any shape or form. It's obviously with clarifications on some of the outreach services and the likes, and support services, it's very difficult to get neatly fit within some of these categories as well too. So really, when you are filling out your permitted workers form, it's important to assess whether the staff member that you're doing it for is able to fit into, I'm going to say, third column being open for on-site work for the COVID safe plan, and what they're actually doing fits within that particular column, if it is possible to obviously do that. With it, what's also then required from agencies as part of that, if just going back, is to make sure that as part of this, you're clear about what the fines and penalties, and this is probably what's causing probably the most angst and anxiety for CEOs and agencies that are signing off on these forms, is that the penalties for, I'm going to say, for getting it wrong is up to $19,826 for individuals and $99,132 for businesses. And this will apply to employers who issue work permits to employees who do not meet the requirements for the worker permit scheme or otherwise breach the scheme requirements as well too. And with it, there are also further on-the-spot fines of up to $1,652 for individuals and $9,913 for businesses for anyone who breaches the scheme requirements as well. So you can see that the fines and penalties are obviously quite significant, and certainly the media has picked this up in the last day. Now, obviously, when we're looking at eligibilities, again, just working through it in terms of what each agency needs to look at. Employers can issue a work permit to obviously your employee if the organization is on the list of permitted activities, which I've just gone through. The employee is working in an approved category for on-site work, and the employee cannot work from home. In the rare circumstances, the department does talk about an employee does not need a work permit if the employee is at risk at home, such as risk of violence or law enforcement or emergency services work, or health workers who carry employer-issued photographic identification as part of their employment. Now, an employee must not use the worker permit even if they have been issued one if they test positive to COVID-19 and are required to self-isolate, which is, I would say, really common sense kind of approach. But also they are a close contact of someone else who has tested positive. And those last two is already part of the health guidelines we've seen now over the past few months about being in close contact and not moving if you have tested positive as well too, to effectively stay home. So that is part of the current requirements that both employers need to meet, but also employees need to meet as well. Now, the process around this, and again, we'll send out copies of these slides, plus also the format Word documents as well too for you to use as well, because we do understand that some people even today have had trouble accessing the department's COVID-19 website to access the form. So essentially it's divided into three parts. You need to download the template and fill it out, sign the worker permit. They say you can print and sign it or sign it electronically. And with it, obviously, ask the employee to sign the worker permit as well too. And they too can sign, print and sign it, or sign it electronically. Now, with it, some agencies have asked us questions on, look, we don't have a printer because they've worked from home and they can't access it. So you are able to take a photo of it and store it on your mobile phone and effectively use that as your mobile, as your document that you use as well too. So it doesn't matter if you don't have a printer at home, you won't be disadvantaged by not doing so as well. So that certainly is there for you to use. The other one, in terms of the permitted worker form, some agencies have asked, and this is it here on the screen, where times don't fit nicely in, where they do provide support work to clients. They might be working outside because they've got to engage other contractors or visit specific sites or the likes. Then again, what we'd suggest is put that directly into the worker permit. You do have the ability under the listed times table to actually add and change those details as well too. So you can provide an explanation there as well. The other one that they do suggest is that all employees that get issued a work permit should carry photo identification when traveling to and from the workplace, and a worker permit can be shown obviously electronically to authorities, such as a photo or scanned copy on a mobile device as well. One of the other documents that we have suggested to agencies to use, and this is just an example of one, is to provide staff with a support letter. Now, it's not something that you need to provide. It's not mandated in any way on the department's COVID-19 set of documents, but we found that it is something that is helpful in the event that staff get pulled over or ask questions. So part of this is, yes, they've got the worker permit, but if they do get asked other questions, like, does the agency have a COVID safe plan? Where are they heading to? Are they going to go straight home? Well, essentially, some of these items are the very clear thing that staff should be saying. So really just having almost a script that they can work from. And the reason it's not to guide staff around this, but really to support them, because being pulled over and making sure that you've got a authorized permitted worker form is one part, but to answer questions is sometimes, when people are put on the spot, is just obviously quite stressful itself. So what I've suggested here was you can put in, this is just a letter that we put, the work undertaken by this staff member is an essential service. As CEO or HR manager, I've signed off on this worker permit. Our agency has a COVID safe plan in place, and this staff member does work from home where possible. The work being undertaken involves, and you can put a description of what they do. And as part of that, when they return from home, and this is just one I used about picking up their child, when they are working, when they do complete their work, they will return directly home and maintain social distancing, practicing good hygiene, taking the most direct route home during this stage 4 period. All measures are in place until these lockdown measures change accordingly in accordance with the Chief Medical Officer's direction. So what this really gives you is kind of that template format for you to use, and also give staff a script to really work from that is actually true and works for that. So with it, one of the other things just before, and I've brought up some of the recommendations here, is that agencies have asked us, look, there are some staff that are not listed in the spreadsheet provided by the department, as I bring that up again, and here it is here. So, for example, where our agency is providing essential services, but the problem is that we need staff just to go in and provide finance services such as payroll or HR, or engage with contractors. But again, it's only once a week kind of basis, but those services are not covered under essential services as part of the work that on this spreadsheet. What we have looked at around this is to look at, well, they are supporting the essential services. They are working from home as much as possible, but there are some tasks that need to be done in the office. If they can't, then effectively the essential workers, direct workers, can't provide that support as well too. So for that reason, an exception on that particular circumstance and for that limited period of time can fall within the open for on-site work COVID safe plan. So there, with that, that's how we've actually looked at supporting some agencies. Equally, if there's some work that's being undertaken where people have to go out and visit clients as well too, and it may well be that it's actually a rostered timetable as well too, and they may go visiting different services, then again, what you may be able to do is actually place that onto the COVID restricted permitted workers form to actually allow them to actually have that flexibility as well too. So you can see within it, what we have done is actually look at working through each of these sections. As we suggest, is to look at completing the worker permit for essential workers, provide a support letter because that will give you what you need and staff the support that they need as well too. Inform staff about what their obligations are, following those 3 or 4 points about making sure they return home in the most direct way and practicing good safe hygiene, etc. But also what we've suggested is review this in 3 weeks' time. So as part of that, rather than trying to do everybody all at once, unless there's a need to do so, in your agency, set the timeline back so you can actually look at the reviewing this in at least 3 weeks' time around some of the essential work that people are also doing. The other part is we have suggested that everyone, just as part and parcel, is take a photo in their mobile phone and keep a copy of it on their phone as well too. There have been times in the past, where people have accidentally left their mask at home or left their mask in the car and they get stopped and the likes. This way, there's no excuse around it, and that way it also protects workers from not having a copy of it on their persons at all times as well too. As I've mentioned, we've also started to set reminders in the compliance calendar for agencies as well too, to ensure that specific updates are also being done as part of the essential workers process as well. With that, happy to stay on the line and answer any questions that people might have. While this session is being recorded, if you are listening to this or watching this after this live session, you can contact us on our 1300 360 360 or email us at support@gemba360.com.